Hey, checking in with chapter 3 of Galore. I actually am probably halfway into chapter 4, but I'm probably going to rewind and try and read it again because it's an onslaught of all the people in this community and skipping back in time. Um, I think I noted in one of the past chapters of like, oh, there's a woman getting fucked by the priest, but the husband is in the back in the next room kicking something and stuff like that. Well, that kind of got explained in chapter 3, which was back in the flashback of Lizzie's mother being Selena. She gets well, what the hell happens? Yeah, Lizzie goes across and they're trying to marry her off, but she doesn't find anyone. But they get a maid, uh, uh, Virtue Prudence. I forget what her fucking name is now. Anyways, she comes back with them. Um, Lizzie Liz Lizzie goes off with one of the Widow Divine's kids, um, and Lizzie and Prudence Virtue Virtue marries this guy Galloway and becomes Miss Galloway, and they have a hard time getting pregnant. Her getting pregnant. She finally does get pregnant, and he gets super jealous. He's like, "You've been fucking that. You got blessing of that fucking Mick priest," and is insanely jealous, and he gets drunk. And one of the times he gets drunk, he gets a guy finds him. One of the guys finds him, takes him back, and it's like I don't want to leave him with a widow just on his own. He wakes up and basically he gets a fixation that you've been fucking my wife, and he goes and kills the guy. And then he comes back to the house and wife sees him coming and is used to the rages right now. Blocks all the stuff. Miss Galloway blocks all the stuff. He comes back down through the chimney and tries to kill her, and it's probably only because she's completely white and like almost half frozen that she doesn't die. And he goes off and they find his body. He basically took off his clothes and drowned himself. um, but she gets nursed back to health, pregnant, but gives birth to the corpse later. And um, and uh, it's like, oh, she kind of meets this other guy, and it's like, oh, maybe she'll make a go of it. They'll be able to have a life when Galloway comes back, and he's sitting in trees and staring at her, and she tells she's working at Miss Galloway's working as a servant for Selena, um, Selena, and Galloway comes through the thing. They can all actually see him, and so she leaves and she finds her own kind of cabin. And she survives off the things, off of donations. And the priest comes to her, and Galloway's sitting over in the corner, and it's like, do you need confession? And he's just muttering and stuff like that. And they figure out what he needs is for the priest to fuck her in front of him. And so that's the penance that this ghost wants. And so that's what they have, and they've continue to have this all the way along up into kind of present time of the novel, which is, it's funny. This is where we get into the, I guess, magic realism of a literary novel that has stuff like this, has stuff like Judah being birthed from a whale. Is like, how do you feel about magic realism and stuff like this? It's tough because like Judah seems to, we're getting we're getting kind of various kind of interpretations of what Judah represents. And now it's like, okay, Galloway as this kind of hungry ghost who wants to see his wife get fucked by this priest all the time, and the priest doing it. And it's like, and the whole thing with Mary. We come back finally to the whole thing of Mary marrying Judah. And yeah, they fuck. And yeah, apparently he has a large prick when he's not completely frozen and being birthed from a whale. And yeah, that she has a kid who is also albino. And the baby is upset, it will suddenly smell like its father. It's like squirting ink. So there's sort of there's these kind of magic realism things, and like she'll have nothing to do with them until like the need comes across her every once a year or so, and then they will have sex. And it's just like, okay, I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know if I feel like it almost brings me out of it. It's like, there's all the stuff of this being like a really kind of like, oh, I believe this as a community. I believe these people, their humor, how they jostle against each other, how they get under each other's skin, how the different religious, the Catholics and the Protestants just fucking go at each other. I believe all of that. I believe all of that stuff, but we get these kind of things of magic realism, fantasy. I'm just going to, just fantasy in there, and they sort of disrupt the world. Suddenly it's just like, oh, I feel the author. Whereas if it was all fantasy, it would just be all fantasy and it wouldn't disrupt things. It's interesting. It's an interesting effect. I'll have to think about how I feel about that. But yeah, I've always had that thing of like, oh, I'm a guy who enjoys fantasy, but a lot of times magic realism pisses me off because it seems to interrupt the world. I mean, I bitched about Victor Laval and The Changeling, but that actually all felt of one piece, of one world, whereas this doesn't so much. So, yeah, there's that. Yeah, and I mean, just Jesus Christ. There's just a whole tumble of all the world stuff here. There is also a thing where one guy who ends up in this community, a black guy, Ralph Stone, and he's up by this pond or whatever. And so they end up calling the pond the N-word pond. And, it's one of these things of like, yep, they're also racist. They don't really know they're racist. It's just a word that they use. And, I'm listening to an audiobook and the narrator saying the word. And, I mean, it's realistic. I mean, there's plenty of place names in Canada before they got changed that were, things that were epithets towards natives and towards black people. So, and I think of Dam Busters and the name of the dog and that, and how Sarah Waters uses a shortened thing of gypsy for the dog in that story. So yeah, there's that. I guess it's just it's color in the novel. Yeah, I feel my discomfort, feel my white liberal discomfort. And that it's there. Okay, so yeah, that's I think all I have to say about it for now. I'm getting confused with the characters and stuff like that, but I'm old and I don't care about that stuff anymore. And somebody won't be asking me for a full recitation of the plot. I'll try and get my facts generally right if I ever talk about it as a book review. I think it's more interesting to kind of puzzle over kind of the magic realism, magic realism bits of it, see how I feel in there, and go from there. Yeah, just because I've read The Innocents, Michael Crummey's much later book, which doesn't have any magic realism in it, I think. There's some stuff with bears, but I'm pretty sure that's realistic stuff with bears. But oh no, I can't remember. Well, let's just say it's much lesser if it is in there. Damn it. And you know, that was much more. It's like it's kind of still this kind of same world, but it feels more real, more more well done. Like the magic realism bits kind of interfere with it being well done in this one. I don't know. I will think about that. All right, more videos later.